Welcome to the From Concealment Podcast, the show for firearm enthusiasts who like to shoot, train, carry, and compete. Get ready for some shooting and sight, firearm and accessory reviews, and of course, insight on concealed carry. And now, broadcasting from behind enemy lines in the From Concealment studio, it's Pete Mitchell and Dan Sams.
Hey, Freedom Nation, this is Pete Mitchell.
And I'm Dan Sams in a sweater today.
Hey, what is the weather like out there in Ohio?
You know what? Yesterday it got up to 59 degrees after being like single digits. Okay. So today it's like in the high 30s, might be like 40 degrees. 37 right now, which to us is still a heat wave. We're still like, I'll be wearing t-shirts. It's good times.
Nice.
I only put on this sweater because I had a business meeting via Microsoft Teams and I wanted to look somewhat professional.
Do you wonder just how many people are like a wreck waist down, like just stains on their shorts, their pants? Maybe they're sitting there in their underwear, but they got the suit on up top.
Yeah.
Because the world's gone Zoom.
I know that happens because I have a friend who does.
I know it happens.
Oh, yeah.
I've done it.
Well, I have a friend who just last week was doing a major acquisition for his company, and it was international. They were buying some company in like Germany or something, and it was like the fastest acquisition they've ever done. So they're like doing all these deals and going back and forth with bids, and so like his wife messaged me. It was like, "Hey, pray for him. Like he's in like pajama pants. He has a cot in his office." And he's wearing like a shirt on top and hasn't slept, more than about 30 minutes in the last 3 days. And so I'm like, awesome. So yeah, I wished I could have seen that actually, but it happens all the time.
It does.
I actually have to get dressed up because I know how I am. I know that I would like stand up and, inadvertently expose myself, and then there'd be this whole lawsuit. And
I've had to do I turn off the camera. I pretend like, there's technical issues. All of a sudden my camera goes off and then I go grab whatever I need to grab and come back. Oh, my camera's back on. It's working now.
See, but then you've got to remember that it's the inadvertent, like, standing up to get something.
Right. And you're sitting there in some whitey tighties. Dude. Okay. So I got to tell you this, man.
Yeah.
My dad's birthday was on Saturday. Now, Let me just say, my parents are good people. I got to preface it with that. They're good people. I don't overtly have anything against my family. I feel they raised me as best they could. There's no doubt. Raised me in a good Christian home. My dad's a pastor, the whole nine, right?
Yeah.
So, but I will say that I have diverged from their path quite a bit. I would say that they probably don't understand me as just a person because I'm so different than what they're used to. Like I'm an entrepreneur. Like, yeah, they don't understand that. Like, why would you not get a nice, good, stable job and have that the rest of your life and, pension and, all that kind of stuff. And honestly, I can't argue with that. All I can say is I just wasn't built that way. I mean, that's all it is. So, in fact, true story, man, I was in college, finishing up college. And I was talking to my dad one time, and my dad at the time worked for juvenile hall as a school teacher. But I think that's what he retired from, was juvenile hall, if memory serves. I can't remember exactly. And so I was telling him, I got my third interview for a probation department. I was going to be a probation officer. And I literally remember my dad going, "Oh, those are good jobs, man. You can make like 50 grand a year doing that." And I, like, the second he said that, I was like, I'm not going in for that third interview. I'm just not showing up. I was like, I'm not doing that. 50 grand. I'm like, what is that? That's nothing. I just literally in that moment was like, never doing that again. So anyway, that's just to say that my parents, love them to death. We're totally different, right? Yeah. Like, my mom's scared of guns. I'm kind of a gun nut. I mean,
we hadn't noticed,
so So anyway, my dad's birthday is on Saturday. So, I'm doing the obligatory call because I don't actually talk to my parents all that often. We really talk on holidays and birthdays. Like that's when we talk because I'm not very close with them because we're so different. And it usually ends in a fight. I mean, to be honest with it, our conversations usually end in a fight. So my parents are scared to death of this COVID thing. Scared to death. And to be fair, they are absolutely in the high risk category. Both my mom and my dad, 100%, they're high risk. If they get it, it's not good. Like it's not good at all. And so, they're just talking about this, that, and the next. I'm biting my lip. I'm like, Pete, don't say nothing. Don't start nothing. Won't be nothing. Right. Like all these thoughts are going through my head. And then finally, it reaches the point where I just can't take it anymore. And I'm just like, this is tyranny. You don't get it. This is tyranny. Like, and I wanted so, I was telling my wife this afterwards because she wasn't here when I was on the phone with them. I wanted so bad to go, you need to repent. This is evil. And you're in favor of this. You're in favor of putting down your neighbor, of imprisoning your neighbor, of locking them up because it makes you feel good about life. I'm like, you need to repent. Like I didn't say that, but I was literally that close because I was just, because they're like, oh, we think this is good, locking everything up and we've already got our first shot of the vaccine and we can't wait for the second shot and then we'll wait 2 more weeks and then we'll start going out. And I'm like, oh, geez.
I'm sorry, dude. So did you clear? Are things still tense with them?
How did it? Because I went off on the whole tyranny thing. I'm like, this is tyranny. You don't quarantine the healthy, you quarantine the sick, and blah blah blah. And then I think my dad just like sees where the conversation's going. Right? We clearly are on 2 different sides of this issue. And he goes, "Well, did you see? It looks like Gavin Newsom's going to get recalled."
Well played, Dad.
I know, right? He's like, what do you think of that? What do you think of that? And I'm like, honestly, I don't think it's going to change the thing. I mean,
yeah.
So we get another Democrat idiot in the governor's house, and nothing changes. Like it doesn't matter. Or
even a Republican crazy one.
Well, like the last Republican we had was Schwarzenegger, who was really a Democrat with an R after his name. So
exactly right.
I mean, the last time we had a Republican governor was probably Reagan, like a real Republican governor.
And even Reagan, man,
when he became president, he screwed us over. So
yeah, man, he's ruining things with the gun laws, man.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. By the way, if I in my family, I think it would be if I said anything bad about Reagan, they would have a hard time with that. But then I would just point out the NFA and they'd be like, oh, yeah, you got a point.
Well, see, my family would be like, well, that's probably a good thing. We don't need those kind of weapons. Why do we need that? Like, because I've pointed that out to my extended family. They'll be like, "Oh, what about Reagan?" I'm like, "You mean the guy who banned all fully automatic weapons? That guy, or all new ones that made after 1986? That one? That guy? Yeah, no, not a fan."
Yep. Yeah, I want to be like, hey, if you ever imagine like what would happen if they banned any car made after 1986? Like, think about what that would do for the auto industry. Think about what it would do for the average like consumer.
It'd be like
Reagan
Cuba.
Didn't do us right.
It'd be like Cuba, where they're still rolling around in those 40s and 50s cars and keeping them running. They have to.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing we can think of to compare it to is a socialist country.
Right.
Yeah.
What does that show you?
Yeah.
So, dude, tell me about the ATF and their meme.
So probably a lot of our listeners already know about this, but as the ATF is prone to do, they stuck their foot in their mouth. I think it was yesterday. It might have been Saturday that the initial post came out. But they essentially posted a memorial related to the Waco incident.
And they lost.
And they just got, yeah. So like like, think about, like, just put aside everything else. Is it really a good idea to bring up a battle that you lost? Not to mention one where you were the bad guy. You know, like, I mean, like, the ATF did a terrible thing that day. They lost lives. So what they did is they list the names of the agents that were killed, right? Dude, people, and this I would say is probably over the line. People were screenshotting that, sharing it, and saying, like, screw the ATF, specifically these 4 agents. Wow. And they're circling them. And I'm like, yeah, that's over the line. I feel like that is not, like, as a Christian, I'm like, I'm not really, like, excited about that. But man, as far as, like, the ATF sticking their foot in their mouth, it was just hilarious. All of the comments about, like, you guys
see, they don't see it as sticking their foot in their mouth at all. And they don't see it as a loss because who walked out of there?
Yeah.
Wasn't the other side, it was them. Therefore, they won.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
It literally wasn't the other side. The other side literally didn't walk out. They burnt up. I mean.
Yeah. Well, and I like, this is, you know, it's worth for us talking just a little bit about Waco. I know we talked about this before, but I always like to point out, we'll say they enacted unlawful gun rules and were willing to kill people over it. And immediately people are like, but David Koresh was a bad dude doing bad things to children. And I'm like, I fully agree. So why didn't you arrest him when he went jogging that morning? Like, if this was about what he was doing to children, I mean, he would go around, his band played in local clubs. Like, this dude was all around. You knew what he was doing, and he was really easy to pick up. But you didn't send children's services. You sent men with tanks and automatic weapons, and they got their asses handed to them on that first raid, right? Like, you were, and this is the thing, they're acknowledging that they weren't, like, they're scared to do anything related to a further raid. And so, of course, it ended with the way it did. So I just like to point out that, like, none of us think David Koresh was doing anything good, but, like, please don't pretend like this is about protecting children when the end of this was that they burned to death.
Right.
And so I would just like to bring up, like, the whole thing that made this go wrong was that they were enforcing unlawful gun rules. And this could have gone a whole lot better if they handled this as a child predator case, but they didn't. That's not how they handled it.
Anyway, as some people pointed out in the comments, so in other words, you killed everybody and those agents died because you didn't get your $200 tax stamp. Like,
exactly right.
Literally, you didn't get your $200, and so you're going to go kill people. Right?
Exactly right. Yeah. What other business do you get to kill people for not paying a bill that you made up?
Right.
That you have nothing to do with the transaction of in the first place? Yeah. It's just wicked. A terrible thing. And yet they celebrate it as a win, as you say. Like, everybody died. Like, the worst possible thing that could happen happened, and they think it's a win. Yeah. So anyway, that was yesterday. So rightly, people rip them up. This is what's funny, though. I went to read their little post on their website, which I probably shouldn't have gone to the ATF website.
Did you go to the ATF website or to the ATF Facebook page?
The ATF website.
Okay.
I'm not saying it was a good idea. So here's what's funny, though. Their little tagline. So, like, there's a little thing. You can sign up for updates from the ATF. Right. Oh, no. You can give them your email address. Please don't anybody do this. But the little pop-up, little ad pop-up has their tagline as protecting the public, serving our nation. And it just hit me like they have a tagline, like they have a little mission statement, and it's that brazen, protecting the public, serving our nation. I could screenshot this because that's flying right over the Waco incident. And I'm just like, you guys are so tone deaf. So anyway, that was on my mind today. Just the ridiculousness of the ATF.
Well, when you go to their Facebook page, they have like post after post of, hey, you know what? We arrested this guy who had an SBR and shouldn't have had one. We arrested this guy. And I'm like, you're literally bragging about violating the Constitution. Now, the ones that they really put out there are felons. People who are felons. And I have a real problem with that because the Constitution doesn't say, well, when you become a felon, you lose certain rights. It doesn't say that. Like, you don't lose your First Amendment right when you're a felon. You just don't. But I'm going to lose my second. What about my third? No, they still can't come and quarter in my house. What about my Fourth Amendment right? What about my Fifth Amendment? I don't lose any of those rights because I'm a felon, but my second, you're going to take that away from me. And notice, like when they started that, it was violent crimes, right? But they also took away felons' right to vote, which is taxation without representation. And I'm actually against that. I believe that even though I would bet felons have a totally different political bent than me, because everyone I've talked to, I've had friends who've been in jail. They're just liberal as can be. Like, I still remember reading a buddy of mine forwarded some emails from some friends of his, and they were all in federal prison. And, Bernie Sanders looks like he's got a chance. He might make it, and that'll be a good thing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not on the same page as these guys. But I don't think it's right to take away their right to vote just because they're a felon. That, and because we've literally turned the world into, you're a felon by noon every day. You've done a felony in the United States by noon every day, the average American, because we've got so many laws on the books. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I encourage people, start to feel good about that, man. You get away with felonies every day. Look at, come on.
They're not the good ones. They're not the good ones.
That's how American we are. We like, they ain't caught us yet, suckers.
We should be Australian, man. Are you kidding me? We got away with another felony.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, here's what's fun. If you guys do get the chance, Pete mentioned the ATF website on here. Just scroll through and look at all the beautiful comments. Like, I have not seen one positive comment. Like, everything is how much the ATF sucks. And I'm like, what do you guys think is going to happen? Oh, it's just beautiful. That's
when I saw that, I think I probably hearted a couple of comments. And then I was like thinking in my head, I'm like, ooh, whoa. I don't know if that's such a good idea, because the ATF is keeping track of all those people.
They're legitimately watching all that.
They're legitimately watching all of those people. And I'm like, do I really want to get on that watch list? I mean, because we've already seen it, right? We've already seen the gal who like made some comment in Florida about dumping trash on the mayor's lawn, and she had police visit her house at 10:30 at night. The freedom of speech is, well, as long as your speech doesn't piss me off. That's what our freedom of speech has become.
So I know we just said we didn't like this guy very much, but did you ever see during the Schwarzenegger administration, he sent a memo to California House of Reps or something. They didn't pass something he wanted, or they passed something he didn't want. I don't remember what it was, but he wrote a note, and it was very kindly worded, and it just said something like, feeling a little disappointed that da 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 da, and then understanding that da 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 da, and care and concern should da 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 da, and so that like the left margin spelled out "fu."
Oh, did it?
And
really?
So like we should. It was beautiful, and so it actually made me respect him more. So like, I wonder if you could post something on on the ATF site that's like, firearms should be regulated all the time. And I understand that like you can just now, I'm not saying that you should do that, but
we have to find that letter, and we got to post it in the Telegram group.
I'll see if I can find it. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, come on. Something like that's got to be like famous.
Yeah.
I can't believe I didn't hear about that.
Yeah. Hold on. Now, I mean, maybe it's some legendary thing that wasn't true back then, but I remember seeing it. Yeah, hold on. Huffington Post has an article about it. All right, I'm not going to be able to do enough research fast enough, but here it is. Yeah. He says, to the members of the California State Assembly, I am returning Assembly Bill 1176 without my signature. For some time now, I have lamented blah, 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 unnecessary bills, blah, 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 care, our major issue, blah, 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 blah. This looks real. Oh man, this is he says yet another legislatively or blah 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 overwhelmingly deserved da 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 unnecessarily like he did it. But if you read it, it's so professional. It's beautiful. Yeah,
it totally sounds like something Trump would have done. Like, I'm betting Trump's pissed that he didn't do it.
He probably is. All right, I better go and unlike my likes on these comments on the ATF page.
It's too late, man. They already got software that scraped all those names. We're already on the list.
It's so true. And what's funny is the first one that pops up, of course, because of Facebook algorithm, but it's somebody that I know who made a really negative comment, and I'm like, way to go, and I liked it, and then I'm like, uh-oh. So anyway, fun times there. Yeah, we'll share this. I'm going to share the link. I can't believe I'm sharing a Huffington Post link in our Facebook feed, but that's where I found, that was the first one where I found an actual image of the ad, or not the ad, but of the memo.
Right.
So fun stuff, man. So, hey, we got a couple of more things to talk about, though. I have a gun that came to my attention this week that we need to talk about. And I also need to talk about some of our code names. So I have a funny story related to code names. So we put out like Cameron right now is our most faithful listener. Now, Cowboy is a faithful listener, like nothing down in Cowboy.
He says if you're not on a list, you're doing it wrong.
That's what I'm talking about. Oh, that's awesome. So Cowboy is usually on here. He just had a baby, so we're forgiving him, but he's going to have to come back in and start listening on time. But Cameron, man, every time we jump on here, Cameron is on. And so we've shouted out to Cameron many times. So was it last week? I think it was last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. We said something like, "Hey, Cameron needs a code name. Like everybody gets a code name. You know, Cowboy's got a code name. You know, Leroy's got a code name. Leroy Senior has a code name." And I'm like, Cameron, shoot us some. Like, I feel like he's earned the right to pick his code name. So I'm like, Cameron, like, shoot us a message. Tell us what your code name should be. And so he puts in, I think you saw, he puts in a couple of them, but he's like, man, I'd really like to be called Black Ops. I'm going to tell you right now, I have never zoomed in to look at Cameron's Facebook picture.
Oh, he's black.
Yeah, I didn't know. So I'm like, Black Ops. I'm like, dang it, I would have loved to have been called Black Ops. Black Ops is really cool. And then I'm like, yeah, dude, you can be Black Ops. That's a cool name. And then I zoom in and I'm like, it makes it better. And I'm like, Cameron, I'm so sorry that I didn't like recognize the coolness of your suggested name. I just blew right past it. But dude, we're so thankful for you. And if that's still your number one pick, that can be your code name, man. I'm totally good with that.
I'll tell you, man, I was watching him on Facebook and I decided not to get into this debate, but it was a debate on abortion.
Yeah.
And he was really like explaining, here's the problem with it. It's our sin. This is our problem. He was literally breaking the whole thing down because, you know, obviously abortion is a very touchy subject because some people see that killing their kid is somehow right. I mean,
they're like the ATF. I'm not kidding. When you were talking about the ATF, like children are being abused, let's burn them to death. And I'm like, that sounds a whole lot like the argument for abortion where it's like, well, these kids might be abused in the future. And I'm like, so you're going to kill them?
Well,
like,
see, that was the thing. This one gal on his post was like, you know, look at all the foster kids and they're all messed up and this, that, and the next. And, you know, we're not even addressing that problem. So we need to fix that before we start. And I'm like, so the answer is let's kill the kids. Like, yeah, let me understand this right. But I didn't get into it because I was like, dude, I don't even know this person. I don't, you know.
Yeah, I know how that goes. Well, yeah. Cameron, tag me in if you ever need my help, brother. Like, because I mean, it's no question that people know that I will make people mad on Facebook sometimes. So,
don't you work at like some crisis pregnancy center or something?
I do. Yeah,
you do like marketing for them, right, or something like that.
Yeah, and also I run their men's program. So, like, I actually talk to.
Do the men get pregnant too? Is this a new thing?
No, it's becoming a thing. I have a lot of conversations.
Is it those kind of men? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know?
That's right. Well, no, here's what's interesting.
XX men?
No, well, it's funny. Yes, sometimes that's been a thing, but Yeah, no, they say that that something like 80% of the women who are abortion vulnerable, what they're waiting for is the guy to just say, I'm gonna step up and I'm gonna
No
be a father to
kidding.
this kid. And so they say that, I mean, there's abortion determined women that there's nothing you can, I shouldn't
Right.
say there's nothing you can do, but they're hard to convince. But most of the time, they just want the guy to say he's gonna step up. And but guys have been trained to say, well, it's your decision, which to them is like, okay, that means I'm alone. The irony is what they want is patriarchy. They want a man to step in and say, like, I will take care of this child and I will be your husband. And they will almost always choose to save the life of the baby when that happens.
See, I think a lot of times guys they fall in the, well, it's your decision, because they don't want to take responsibility for their actions.
Well, that does happen a lot. And that's another way that I come in. I have a lot of conversations. I lay it on them. I'm like, listen, dude, like, this is your chance to have a family and have a life, and this could actually work out really well for you. Or you can actually have your own child's blood on your hands. Like, and I say it nicer than that, but I'm pretty honest. Like, I mean, we look at scripture and I'm like, this child is created in the image of God, and you are planning to kill this child. What are you doing? And it's interesting the conversations I had. We've had a few. I had a hardcore, like, 1%er biker gang dude, like hardcore, this dude is probably, he was a rough looking dude and a rough story. Long
This
story.
probably wouldn't have been the first person he's killed.
Probably. I was trying to find a nice way to say that. You know what? Like, I sat down with him and he looked at me like I was ridiculous and whatever, but they chose to keep their baby.
Really?
Actually put it up for adoption, which is the rarest thing. Usually they either do abortion or keep the baby. Adoption is actually the rarest thing. But anyway, that's a whole other side note. But yeah, I do a lot of that work. You ever want to talk the stats? Because like the pro-life people, actually, one of the things they're like, you pro-life people only care about the baby till it's born. And I'm like, actually, no, the stats are that like pro-life Christians adopt more and foster more at a higher rate than any other people group. And so like that whole argument never gets very far. And yeah, anyway, that's a whole other, it's not directly gun related, other than like it's, discussion of what the ATF usually does. But anyway, yeah, I wonder when those guys are finally going to knock on my door. I'm going to be like, oh, are you guys the Jehovah's Witnesses? I want to talk to you about Jesus today. So anyway, so
it's funny, man, when the Jehovah's Witnesses come and knock on my door, if I'm in the right mood, which I try to be, because I'm rarely in the right mood. I was reading this book about a former Jehovah's Witness, and she had an excellent point. And ever since then, I couldn't. She goes, look, my neighbors may not be prepared to have a conversation with them. So every minute I can keep them talking to me is a minute I'm keeping them from talking to my neighbors.
Yeah.
And so
I
was like, ooh. So I've tried to have those conversations, but they usually, I mean, once they find out, I'm like, they're like, oh, here, you want to take our stuff? I go, oh, would you be happy to take my documents? Mm-hmm. No, because they won't. Like, that's their no.
Well, their whole religious system, man, we're totally on a rabbit trail, but it's cool. And their whole religious system is based around keeping their people ignorant. I mean, I don't say that to be mean, but like,
no, it's true. They don't believe, like, this gal worked for me for a long time in insurance, and she was Jehovah's Witness. She used to make like every single product that would come out, she would like grill me on it. We'd be sitting down with her clients, why are we doing that? I mean, she would like literally make me explain everything. And I'm like, I don't get this. You're not even allowed to question your religion, but like your nature is explain everything to me. How is this happening?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's what's fun, because they started writing me letters during COVID, and I would respond and I would be like, okay, so just explain to me, like, Jesus is God. Scripture's pretty clear on it. And I'll be like, he forgives sin, which only God's allowed to do. Here's where he uses the Hebrew word I am for himself. Like, I go through, like, and I have a whole bunch of things where like all of this is clearly.
And you could tell the Jews knew exactly what he said when he said I am, because what's the very next verse they're doing? Looking for stones to stone him.
It ultimately is the only thing they brought against him for his crucifixion is that he claimed to be God. And so anyway, though, they just won't answer those questions. They'll ask something else unrelated. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with any of this. And so I just keep putting the screws. I'm like, I won't answer you until you answer this.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, clearly you already, and I'm like, don't start what you can't finish, sucker. And I make them finish the conversation. I say it very nicely. You'd have to be there. The other fun thing is when there's two of them, and there's always like
two. Yeah.
There's always a master and an apprentice, right? So talk to the apprentice, make eye contact and ask the questions of that person. And you'll see them like dialing in. It's so beautiful. They're like, they realize that like, oh my gosh, I'm in a cult. And like the other person is like, we gotta go. And so that's actually a really quick way to get rid of them is talk to the apprentice, ask them questions because they're not gonna have anything. Yeah. Anyway, man, I'm loving. We got all the crazy rabbit trails.
I don't know how we got on that one, but we did. Oh well.
I don't know, man. We've talked about abortion, but like this is going to turn into a Christian podcast.
It's the From Concealment, baby. We're back in the shadows.
The From Concealment is that we're actually going to share the gospel with you, which we've already done on the show like 4 times. Anyway, I don't know. Are you okay on time? Because I got one more thing I think we can talk about. So yesterday, we're sitting around after church. We're having lunch because we always have lunch after our church. And most of our church is gun guys. Even like new people that just come randomly turn out to be gun guys. It's really a wonderful thing.
You are in Ohio. I mean,
it's true. But like our new dude is from Brooklyn, New York.
Dude, you're in rural Ohio. I
know. Dude, but new guy's from Brooklyn. He just moved from Brooklyn. He's a gun guy. How does that happen? That the guy from Brooklyn's a gun guy. Anyway, so we're talking guns or whatever. And one of our dudes brings up this alien pistol. The Lago firearms, L-A-U.
Can you do a screen share so I can see it?
Yeah, here, hold on. Let's do this. Cause oh my gosh, it's just awesome. He told me about it. And here's how he introduced it. He's like, so anyway, I think I want to sell one of my kids to get a new gun. So check this thing out. This is a Lago Alien. Forgive me if I'm saying it wrong. Here's the beautiful thing. It is a fixed barrel, right?
Oh, really?
Fixed barrel. So let me see if one of these. So notice how on the bottom right here, the slide comes back on the side. Your sights stay stable. So it functions. The action of it is a little bit more like a Ruger Mark IV targeting pistol, where instead of the barrel and slide or the slide moving and the barrel jostling around, everything is stable, including your sights. And so this thing's amazing. It was going for about $5,000 a few months ago. If you get a gun broker right now, you're looking at $9,000 or $10,000 to try to get a hold of one of these things. Wow. So that was at least yesterday. But you guys, I mean, this is certainly a match pistol. Like this is for the competition shooters or whatever. But I am impressed. I'm liking even what's that?
What caliber?
I think 9, but now I'm not certain. Hold on. Why does it not say on here? I was thinking it was 9 because we were all talking 9 about the thing, but it's not showing. Huh. I don't know.
One of our guests who we've had on here, Lance Boland over there at Fast OC. I remember him saying one of the reasons why he went to I can't remember exactly what it's called, and all of our gun guys are going to rip on me for not remembering this, but I think it's like the cowboy competitions, cowboy pistol competitions, basically
cowboy action revolver.
Yeah, there you go. Part of the reason why he did that one was because he kind of went as far as he could go in the other, and so he still wanted to compete, and so he went over using revolvers. But he's like, look, the sights never leave the barrel, like it's not moving. And you think about a Glock and it's like, yeah, dude, the barrel goes up and then comes back down. I mean, so you always have slight adjustments, slight changes on your sights. It's not as stable as something that's fixed like that.
Yeah. Well, not to mention just the nature of the action. So if anybody who shot a Ruger Mark IV, and admittedly, I mean, that's a 22, right? But the action that goes straight back as opposed to a slide where everything's moving and you have a tendency to move more. I feel like you have a little bit more control. Like there's just something about the way that that function works. I like it. So I'm intrigued by this thing. It's way out of my price range. It's way out of my need range, but it's stinking cool, man. So yeah, I'm intrigued at what's going to happen with this. I'm assuming it's
Look at
going to
how
be
high those sights are over the barrel. Isn't that crazy?
I know. Yeah.
It's like almost like you got suppressor sights, only it's not suppressor sights.
I know. Well, because that's part of the barrel. Here's the other interesting thing about that barrel. Notice how low the barrel is, right? So that barrel is right next to your finger. So if you're essentially, when you lay your finger on the frame for trigger discipline, you're laying it against the barrel. So I would argue that the natural pull, like where you naturally aim, there's going to be some advantages to that. I don't know.
I would think recoil too, because it's not going to flip up as much.
Yeah.
Again,
the recoil is
the whole point of recoil is it's pulling back. And the reason why it always flips up for us is because our wrists, our wrists just basically are going to take that recoil and go up with it. But if it's a little bit lower, it's going to go back more and not contribute as much to the flip. Yep.
I think it's something pretty cool there, man. Pretty cool. So anyway, let's keep an eye on this one. Everything on their website is about like fill out a form to learn more, to pre-order and stuff like that. My understanding is these things are out there on Gunbroker. I didn't look myself, but my dude yesterday was actually showing me, and so he was saying $9,000, man. So I think this is going to be this is going to be interesting, especially for the competition shooters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good stuff. But that's what I had today. I wanted to make sure everybody knew about the Alien pistol. Wanted to joke on the ATF. I mean, right there, that's been a good day.
Yeah, I dig it, man. I dig it. It's awesome. Well, I unfortunately didn't have any other stories to share. I haven't been shooting in a while, man, and I need to go. It's just been really tough being able to get to a training class or a competition. Though I think there's a competition tonight but it's not a good competition. It's not one where it's the one where never mind. I'm not even gonna say anything because I know some of those guys listen. But anyway, nice. There's a competition I think tonight.
Nice, awesome.
I won't be at that one. I'll be at another one.
Well, let me encourage everybody, since hardly any of us are able to spend money on ammo, or we can't find ammo to shoot anyway, and so we're just keeping our stockpile. Let me encourage everybody, man. We've talked about it before. Do that dry fire practicing. Man, if nothing else, practice your from concealment draw. I realized the other day I changed the mag out because I put the shorter mag on my carry pistol because there was a long story, but I was noticing the way it was protruding and the way I was holding it, appendix carry, and I put that smaller one on there. And I tell you what, it changed the way that I pull. And so I need to practice with that other mag. It's the same gun, but I'm slower now. The other thing, and man, I think I only briefly mentioned this, but I've been talking about the book, When Violence is the Answer. I think I mentioned that last week by Tim Larkin, sorry. He gets into the whole drill of slow is fast and fast is deadly. That like do the steady, don't try to do it as fast as you can, do it as steady as you can over and over and over again. Practice that pull. And he's like, in the adrenaline moment, you're going to be fast. So make sure that you are practicing the right way, not just the fastest way. Because he's like, you can be fast and sloppy and it's going to be much worse when you're in that situation. So anyway, also great book. I'm like halfway through the book and I am amazed. Solid book. Definitely want to read that. So yeah, if nothing else, Pete, we'll give our sign off, right?
That's it. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, hey, everybody, got to say hi to Lake Erie Arms as normal. These dudes are solid and they are keeping their stock. When I say that, I mean, they're replenishing quickly. So it's a great time to get out, buy a gun. We're able to fix you up with a gun, and we do keep ammo, especially if you're buying a 9mm. We tend to keep ammo for 9mm buyers so that when you buy a 9mm, you can make sure that you have ammo for that thing. So we do it for a couple of other calibers usually as well. But check out learms.net to sign up for classes or come in live. And we've got some more video content in the works for some online training. So I'm excited about that.
And
other than that, you guys have a great week.
Yeah. And if you haven't already done it, get on our Telegram group. And you can do that by texting the keyword HERO, HERO, to 850-990-2020. 850-990-2020. It'll be in the show notes of the podcast. The keyword HERO, just send it over to that. It's going to ask for your email, put you on our email list, which I've yet to send out an email. So don't worry about getting spammed. And then it'll send you the link to the Telegram group. And that's where we send all of our memes back and forth to each other, right there in the Telegram.
That's right.
group.
It's a beautiful place. Hey, and if you're wondering, wait a minute, you'll remember the number and you're like, wait a minute, what is it that I type in? What is it that I text? And then think of the guy who smashed the other guy in the face with the twisted tea can. We haven't talked about that in a while. And then be like, oh yeah, that's right. Hero. That's what I've got to type in. Also, hey, everybody, make sure comment, like us and rate us on your various podcasting platforms. That helps us out a lot. And if you'll do that, we appreciate it. I've forgotten to mention that because we're just so happy to talk to each other. But if you want to jump in and rate us, hopefully give us a nice 5-star rating. And if you don't want to give us a 5-star, then I don't know, just don't say anything at all, I guess. But
we'll give you your money back for the podcast.
That's right. You can have your money back. Jump on, give us a rating, and help us out there. But thank you guys very much. We'll talk to you later.
Cool. All right, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the From Concealment podcast with Pete Mitchell and Dan Sams. Be sure to tune in next week for more gun talk. Also, check out the From Concealment website for more shooting-related goodness at FromConcealment.com.